This is our spoiler review of Afterworlds by Scott Westerfield, and if you haven't read Scott Westerfield, this would be a good book to start picking up on, because he is probably one of our favorite go-to authors. When he has a new book, we just have to read it. Same with Afterworlds, which we actually got advanced copies of.
Whee!
Yeah. So,
that was a big book. It's like a brick.
Well, it was 2 books, technically.
Technically, but it's still a brick.
Yeah. So anyways, what we were doing was reading it, and I kind of read the back, and I didn't sink in to my brain about what it was actually about. I figured that the 2 stories would actually, like, intersect, and that, like, I don't know, something magical would happen between the 2. I don't know where I got the idea. But, anyways, there's 2 stories. There is, Afterworlds, the pseudo-book, which is, written by Darcy in the other story. So you're getting Darcy's story at the same time you're getting Darcy's story. Yeah.
Are you following? Darcy has written a novel. You are reading her story while she is in New York City doing her edits at the same time as reading the novel that Darcy wrote. I think I just explained that clearer.
I think you got a little muddled at the end, but that was better than what I gave you.
All right.
Anyways, so Darcy is the luckiest bitch you've ever met. She has a horseshoe so far up her butt, it is practically a nose ring, okay? Basically, she was doing her homework in her senior year of high school, and she was simultaneously writing a novel.
For NaNoWriMo.
Which, it didn't say NaNoWriMo,
but she says she wrote it in November.
And it was 30 days, yeah. But so anyways, she writes this book, and she's like, hey, this is pretty good. Let me send this off to an agent. And she sends it off to the agent, and the agent's like, it's been like a week. This is awesome! Okay, I'm gonna send this to a publisher now. And she sends it to a publisher, and the publisher is like, this is awesome! This will make, like, tons of money. Here's, like, $100,000. Or more. What was it?
I don't even remember.
It was a lot of money. Anyway. So, she's now sitting on this giant book advance. Her novel is scheduled to come out soonish.
Yes, she's basically doing her edits and her rewrites.
Yeah. And so she's like, well, I want to focus on writing and finishing this, because she's also got a book deal for another book after that called Untitled Patel, because she hasn't figured out what it is. Anyways, so she's like, well, let me move to New York. And so she moves to New York, and she suddenly gets introduced to all these famous authors. She meets one girl who ends up becoming her girlfriend, who's also an author. Her books aren't doing so well, but they're excellent. And just, her life is just so enviable. It's like the author dream. That's what she's living in. Author heaven. Basically, the conflicts in her story are more or less her trying to get over the fact that she is a writer. She doesn't have writer's block, which is nice, because that would have been awful to slog through. But she's like kind of like got those dilemmas where she's like, am I stealing this from someone? Am I stealing this from a culture? Am I an actual writer? Like, when do I become an actual writer? Is this a fluke? And she just has all these like things running through her head. And then she also has her girlfriend's problems, which are like, do I know her? Do we trust each other? Where's this going? Like, just...
This is my first real official relationship. Does that mean it's actually going to end? Or is this like something more meaningful? And it's just...
She has a lot of questions.
Yes.
She is a very questioning person. But ultimately, you're kind of like with her through this journey of like putting out this novel and going...
You want to see her succeed.
Yeah. And like, so she's going to author signings, and she's going on tour, and she goes to BIA, which is really, really strange. Very, very strange. And just, yeah, you want her life. On the other side, we have Lizzie's story. Lizzie and Darcy, ha ha ha. And basically this girl is in a terrorist attack, and she has to play dead so that hopefully she can live through this experience. But she comes out on the other side of death, and it turns out she is like a Grim Reaper or a, I don't know, they use a whole bunch of names, psychopomp, which I also hate, that word. But she meets this like hot YA
stereotype hot guy.
Yeah. Who was like an ancient Indian lord who's been doing this for years and years and years, and kind of shows her the ropes on death, but mostly is like, have fun, learn yourself.
But don't learn, because if you learn too fast, then you have to leave your life behind. Enjoy your life.
But I'm not going to tell you anything.
At all.
Really.
But then I'm going to take you places.
He was a little problematic. But anyways, so her mother's best friend was killed by a serial killer and buried in her own backyard, which is...
That was creepy. Okay, so it wasn't that the serial killer went to the house and killed them. No, the kid and the family were on a road trip vacation thing, and she disappeared, and then they found the body in the backyard. And that just
like
whoa, that is dark. That is too...
Yeah, that was just like...
Ooh.
That was like, I'm closing the book now. But anyways, so Lizzie is trying to help the little girl ghost, because the ghost has been living in their house for years and years and years, because the mother remembers her. So Lizzie's trying to help the little ghost girl, Mindy, kind of get over her fears. She ends up kind of confronting the serial killer, and she's also confronting some of the nastier psychopomps that happen to inhabit death.
This book was very creepy.
It was.
Like, the more I think about the Lizzie story, I'm just like, this is...
Whoa.
Whoa.
Like, when I picture it in, like, the Afterworlds color...
Yeah, it's... Ugh.
Color title card thing. Cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just... If it were a movie, it would be, like, leached of all color kind of thing. It would be mostly gray and, like, a weird blue. Even, like, the real life part. But anyway. So, what was your favorite part about this?
I don't know. I mean, I liked both stories a lot. I got to the point where I'd read one chapter, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, awesome, Darcy, oh. I don't want to read about Lizzie, then I'd start reading about Lizzie. Oh, yeah, no, I don't want to read about Darcy now, and, like, back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. I flew through this book.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was just... I really liked the world in the Lizzie story. Like, I liked how, like, the ghost thing worked. I liked how the river worked. I liked how the powers worked. I liked how uncomfortable Mr. Hamlin made me. I liked the big twist with the serial killer, which we're gonna probably discuss soon.
You can discuss it now.
Okay, so she goes and finally to face the serial killer, and she kills him. And we're not talking about, like, some kind of, like, Disney, let's push him off of a cliff, make him, like, his death is his own. No, she takes, like...
She takes a shovel.
She takes a shovel to him.
And then she, like, she just suffocates him.
Yeah, and it's... You do not see that.
That never happens. Ever. And she doesn't even have any regrets about it either. She's just like, oh, I hope I don't get cut. Moving on.
And then she calls the other creepy dude, Mr. Hamlin. It's like, I need your help. And I'm just...
she's like, I need to destroy his soul now. So not only... She practically, like, murdered him twice, okay? First she murders his body, and then she, like...
Murders his soul.
She tears it into pieces and just, like, scatters it to the four winds. Like, holy crap.
And of course, this doesn't not have consequences. Like, later on when she runs into Yama and, like, kisses her, and she's, like, corrupted.
He's like, holy crap, this girl killed someone. She's now, like, completely tainted by death. And you're like, wow, look at that. A relationship destroyed, sort of.
Kind of.
I thought their relationship was interesting because there's really, like, no foundation to it. Like, they're just...
It's definitely meta YA. Like...
Yeah. Like, I guess you can kind of reason a foundation to it, but it doesn't... You don't get any, like, strength to it, right? Like, it's just, like, that they're a comfort to each other. Because, yes, they are.
Because reasons.
They both kind of went through this thing together, and
Yeah, they can like talk about it to one another.
Sort of, which we never see, ever. So yeah, it was definitely, meta YA. Which is interesting because the book is so meta, any like faults that it might pop up, you can be like, they're just being meta. Like, whether it was a conscious choice or not, you're just like, it was meta. It's just a comment on the genre.
And it isn't like... brain.
You're just like, I don't know where the good stops and where the bad starts, and just, it's very confusing. But, you enjoy every second of it, because despite the fact that it's being meta and it has, like, the classic YA pitfalls, it's still insanely dark.
Oh, yeah.
Like, really dark. You enjoy it. Like, it's fast-paced, and
it starts off running, too. Like, it's just...
And in Darcy's story, too, everybody comments on, like, the opening of Afterworlds, or, like, it was excellent, like, that's what kind of sells you on the book. And they're not just like, it was excellent, and the start of Afterworlds is actually excellent. Like, you're reading it, you're like, holy crap, what's going on? And, so it's interesting to see, like, the comments that they make, and it's actually backed up in the story. Like, when they're like, this is excellent, it's actually excellent. And then you have the added bonus of Scott Westerfield, like, looking at his story and commenting on how good it is through the other characters. So it's just this, like, meta ball of just...
Bookception?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Bookception. You're just like, I don't even know what to think about this.
And okay, so on the other hand, the Darcy story. I want her life. I want it. I want it so bad.
Like, as lucky as she is, she doesn't get, like, overconfident about it.
I think it also makes it worse for her.
Like, she's very much in her own head, and it kind of makes her human, and it kind of makes her story interesting, because if you're, like, looking from, like, a standpoint, she's already won, right? Like, she's gotten her dream kind of thing, but it's like, what do you do after you've got your dream? Like, it's not the end of the story kind of thing. Can you imagine, though, if we had to listen to Darcy Train like this thing? Like, how it would have been very boring. So I'm very glad that he decided to focus on the side of publishing a book that he did.
And so she runs into all of these famous authors, like, in her world. And you're sitting there and you're reading and I'm like, is that, like, Holly Black?
What about, I think that's John Green. That's gotta be John Green. There's no one else that could be. And you're, like, listening to, like, at one point, Imogene, her girlfriend, is trying to write a scene. And so she's trying to, like, figure out what it's like to be in the trunk of a car, being stuck in the trunk of a car. And she's like, I have nothing for this. Darcy, here are the keys. I'm going to get in the trunk, and you're going to drive me around in the trunk of this car. And I was like, I've heard a story like that before. I swear to God, that was actually Cassandra Clare and Holly Black. And, like, lo and behold, you turn to the end of the book, and it's like, yeah, thanks to all those authors who have kind of, like, inspired some of these stories, like Holly Black and her dedication to research. And I was like, yep. Yep, definitely heard that story before. So you can kind of, like, yeah, it's, like, meta on every level, right? Like, even, like, Darcy's story is meta, and then you get into Darcy writing Lizzie's story, and it's meta. And it's just layers and layers and layers of stuff. Anyways, it's highly enjoyable. Like, but I almost found that the book would have been really good as 2 books.
See, I liked it the way it was. I think it's just because the subtlety of certain crossovers I really, really, really liked. Like how, or like the whole, the trunk thing, that's one of the more obvious one. Like, they're like, oh, drive me in the trunk. And then, because my character wants to be, I want my character to be claustrophobic. And then there's a scene with Lizzie in the closet, and she's claustrophobic. Or like, she's talking to, someone and they live in a bungalow, and then Darcy's like, I really like that word.
I don't know what it means, but
I'm going to use that word. And then later on, when they're describing where the serial killer lives,
it's a bungalow.
It's a bungalow.
Yeah.
Colors also cross over between. And there was another one. I wrote them all down, but I don't remember what they were. But it was just really kind of cool to see the two crossover.
I felt like it might have flowed, like you could really get into Darcy's or Lizzie's story if it was two, though, because there were some things that I felt like were left out. Like, I don't know, like I felt like her best friend Jamie and Lizzie's story just didn't get enough airtime, right? And she wasn't like grounded enough to the real world. Or
But that could also be meta.
Yeah.
Okay, it could be meta because you know the rules of your teen fiction. So you may not see Lizzie and Yami having like their heart-to-heart conversations, but you know what's happening. And you may not see Lizzie, having her heart-to-heart conversations with her best friend, but because you know the rules of teen fiction, you know the best friend is either going to be a supportive, awesome best friend or a class A bitch.
Yeah, but I mean, at one point, even in Darcy's story, they're like, put more of Jamie in because Jamie grounds her to the real world. But we had two scenes. We had 2 scenes with Jamie, and I was like, meta. And you're getting the edited version of Afterworlds when you're reading it, because at one point they're like,
she has a scene where it's basically all of them sitting and drinking tea and just exposition dump, and you never read that because you're reading the edited version.
So for all the things that we got about Jamie, it wasn't like enough, and like so he could have expanded more, and then you could have had like a nice flow across. But like I'm happy with it as it is too. But it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if he had published them side by side. Then you would kind of have to go back and you'd have to like really read both of them closely to see how they like intersect, right? I feel like that would be like your favorite thing to do.
But so definitely love this book. Even though we have the advanced reader, I'm totally going to go out and buy it.
Oh my god, yeah.
I loved it. It was so good. It's so good. I very rarely rate things 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. And this is a 5 out of 5.
Okay. Well, you've been on a 5 out of 5 streak.
I know, but I've had a lot of really good books like
First Tierling,
Queen of Tierling, and this one, and
I don't know, we've just been reading.
Yeah.
Oh, The Magisterium.
Yeah, well, I think I rated that a 4. I don't remember. I'll have to look. But that was also very, very good.
So anyways, we've been reading a lot. But anyway, so we loved this book, and when it comes out, we suggest you guys get your hands on a copy because
we recommend it highly.
Alright. Bye, guys.